For 40 years, the Golden State Killer terrorized California. 50 victims, 12 murders, 45 rapes, 120 más burglarías. Police had no idea who he was. Then in 2018, they found him using a piece of tissue from his garbage. When they arrested him, even his own family couldn't believe it. The Golden State Killer was a grandfather, a former police officer, and someone you would never suspect in a million years. His real identity will shock you. April 24, 2018. Citrus Heights, California. 72-year-old Joseph James DeAngelo is gardening in his front yard when police surround his house. For 40 years, he'd been living a normal life. Married, kids, grandchildren, retirement parties. Nobody suspected that this ordinary grandfather was one of America's most prolific serial killers. But here's what makes this story even more shocking. DeAngelo wasn't just any citizen. He was a former police officer. He used his badge, his training, and his inside knowledge of police procedures to commit crimes for decades. And the way they finally caught him, it wasn't brilliant detective work, it wasn't a confession, it was DNA from a tissue he threw away and a genealogy website his relatives used to trace their family tree. 1974 to 1986. 12 years of pure terror across California. The Golden State Killer had multiple names because police didn't realize it was the same person. In Northern California, he was the East Area Rapist, breaking into homes, tying up couples, raping women while forcing their husbands to lie face down with dishes stacked on their backs. If the dishes fell, he'd kill them both. In Southern California, he became the original Night Stalker, escalating to murder. Entire families found dead in their homes. His methods were terrifyingly consistent. He'd stalk victims for weeks, learning their routines. He'd break in when they were asleep, shine a flashlight in their faces, and whisper threats in a cold, calm voice. "I'll kill you if you move. I'll be gone in the dark." What made him so dangerous wasn't just his violence, it was his intelligence. He never left fingerprints. He wore gloves, used ligatures he brought with him, and seemed to know exactly how to avoid detection. Police suspected he had law enforcement training. They were right. While the Golden State Killer was terrorizing California, Joseph James DeAngelo was living his double life perfectly. 1973–1976, DeAngelo works as a police officer in Exeter, California. During this time, the Golden State Killer begins his crime spree. DeAngelo is literally investigating burglaries by day and committing them by night. 1976–1979, DeAngelo becomes a police officer in Auburn, California. The East Area Rapist attacks escalate. DeAngelo has access to police reports, victim information, and investigation details. Here's the most chilling part: DeAngelo was actually fired from the Auburn Police Department in 1979 for shoplifting. His fellow officers described him as strange and angry, but nobody connected him to the rapes happening in their jurisdiction. 1979 to 1986. After being fired, DeAngelo works as a mechanic. The Golden State Killer's attacks become more violent, escalating to murder. Police believe the killer was enraged about something that happened in 1979. They were right. DeAngelo was furious about losing his badge. For decades, the Golden State Killer case went cold. Then in 2017, investigator Paul Holes had an idea that changed everything. What if they used genealogy websites to trace the killer's DNA? They uploaded the Golden State Killer's DNA profile to GEDmatch, a public genealogy database. It showed distant relatives, people who shared small amounts of DNA with the killer. Using these distant relatives, genetic genealogist Barbara Raventer built family trees going back generations. She narrowed it down to potential suspects in the Sacramento area. Joseph James DeAngelo's name came up, but they needed proof. So investigators did something brilliant. They followed DeAngelo to get his DNA without him knowing. June 2018, investigators watched DeAngelo throw away tissues in his garbage. They collect the tissues, extract DNA, and run the comparison. Perfect match. The Golden State Killer was a 72-year-old grandfather who lived in a suburban neighborhood and complained to his neighbors about people not picking up their dog poop. When police arrested Joseph James DeAngelo, his neighbors were shocked. His family was devastated. His ex-wife said she never suspected anything, even though they were married during some of the attacks. DeAngelo confessed to 13 murders and multiple rapes. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. During his sentencing, victims and families finally got to face their attacker. One victim told him, "I've waited 45 years for this day." But here's what haunts investigators. How many other crimes did DeAngelo commit that they do want know about? How many other serial killers are living normal lives, hiding in plain sight? The Golden State Killer case proved that DNA genealogy can solve any cold case where DNA exists. Since 2018, this method has solved hundreds of murders. If you want to see more cases where DNA genealogy caught killers decades later, check out my video about the Bear Brook murders, a case so twisted that it took 30 years to identify the victims and killer. Hit subscribe for more cases where modern science brought justice to families who waited decades for answers. And let me know in the comments, were you shocked by who the Golden State Killer turned out to be? Because sometimes the most dangerous predators are hiding behind the most normal lives.